This is the RPM Podcast, starring Eric Brennan.
Let me give you a piece of love advice. The way to a woman's bed is through her parents. Sleep with them and you're in.
Sam Ballard Jr.
I feel like he might need some therapy.
Scott Riggleman.
But you forgot one thing. Rock crushes scissors. But paper covers rock. And scissors cuts paper. We have a conundrum.
Tim Riggleman.
Finally, I look as pretty as I feel.
And Josh Matthews.
I'm having one of those things. You know, a headache with pictures.
An idea?
And here we are again, the RPM Podcast, episode 139. Man, we're back to our old selves, man. 3 days late, Wednesday night, and we're 10:36 p.m. We were doing good for a while, and doing it every Monday night on time with Eric Brennan. Eric Brennan's not here tonight, so we're back to that old song and dance.
We're doing it on the wrong day and at a really late hour in honor of Eric.
Yeah, we're back to our old ways. But yeah, I mean, we got a lot going on. I mean, Eric's busy. He was away with the go-karting stuff, got back. I understand he had something wrong with his teeth, had to go to the dentist or something, so he's way behind on his work schedule.
Oh, that's his excuse this time?
Yeah, I'm way behind too. I mean, we did a lot of racing. All four of my cars raced this weekend, and all four cars got a little bit of damage, and not damage, but need some work and maintenance, and I've been real busy with that. Plus, I've been real busy with the towing. So that's the reason why we're not doing this until Wednesday night. It is May 22nd, 2019 at 10:37 p.m. on a Wednesday night. But we did want to come on and do a little something with you guys. We didn't want to totally miss this week because, you know, it was such a great weekend of racing, especially at Wall Stadium. So we did want to do something real quick with you guys.
It was,
yeah.
I'm going to say it's arguably the biggest weekend of the year at Wall, with the exception of Turkey Derby.
Guys, I got to take this phone call. Can you just hang on real quick?
At least it's not a fire alarm going off.
As far as Wall Stadium goes, it's, you know, there's a lot more tradition right now behind Turkey Derby, but as far as the importance of the race, you know, some people might say that this is more important. You know, hopefully they can keep going with it. You'll never, in my opinion, the tradition is more important to Wall Stadium right now.
Right.
But,
all right, I'm back.
That's okay. Yeah, I agree. The tradition of Turkey Derby is something that is going to be unrivaled, and there's really nothing else quite like it. But with the tour race coming back after being absent for so many years, and with, you know, the names of the drivers that are going in, and especially now more than ever, you know, as NASCAR was promoting their home tracks thing for years, Wall wasn't a NASCAR sanctioned track, so they weren't listed. And now this is putting the NASCAR name back on Wall, even if it's just for a night. And that crowd was amazing. I mean, it was the Turkey Derby crowd, essentially. That place was packed.
I tell you what, it did feel like a little mini Turkey Derby, especially for the factory stock guys, because we parked in the back parking lot like we do on Turkey Derby, and we bring our cars and our stuff in and everything like that. There was campers there. I mean, maybe not as much as Turkey Derby, but there was campers there, especially for a one-day show. You know, it's hard to attract campers for a one-day show, you know, but there was people there camping. I mean, me and my brother talked about this too. I mean, ever since we were kids at Wall Stadium, they always tried to figure out to have a big event during the year, like a second Turkey Derby, you know, because it's a great income for the racetrack. And they did for a little while. I mean, we used to have the Garden State Classic. That was a huge race for a while.
Didn't they have wasn't there there was like a Summer Sizzler one year? I think they did.
Summer Scorcher or something like that. But I mean, when we were younger, it was the Garden State Classic, especially back in the 70s and 80s. It was a 300-lap modified race that paid pretty big money.
And they got big name drivers to come down.
Yeah, they used to get big name drivers and everything. And but then the Garden State Classic kind of fizzled out after a while, and we lost that big mid-season race or early season spring race. And it was nice to see that the tour stepped in like that, and they finally had a secondary Turkey Derby type crowd where the track can benefit from it and make some pretty good money.
Yeah, I hope it worked out. I mean, That crowd was
I'm sure it
awesome.
did.
And the hype around it was incredible. I was going to say one of the biggest benefits was Tim had a shorter drive home.
Yeah, it took me longer to walk to my car than it did for me to get home after I got in it.
I tell you what, too, I was worried about getting out of there because, like, I usually always go up and get paid. And I'm like, I told Nancy, I said, we're not even getting paid tonight. Let's just get out of here as soon as the tour race is over because I had to stay in tow with the tow truck.
Mm-hmm.
And we did. As soon as the checker flag flew, I pulled into the back pit. I already had my stuff loaded up on my truck and trailer, and I just had to throw her car on the flatbed. And, so it was a good 10 minutes after the race. And with that crowd, I thought it was going to be tough getting out of there. And I'll tell you what, the Wall Township Police did a great job on the 30, the main exit on 34. They had the whole right side lane closed down, so you didn't even have to stop when you were pulling out.
Wow.
You just pulled right out onto the highway. They had it all coned off and everything. So if you were coming 34 south, you actually got down into one lane and you had to go into the left lane where the right lane was only for the traffic coming out of the track. And we pulled right out of there like it was nothing, man. It was great.
Yeah, we did too.
I did see a bus or two shuttling people back and forth from the airport, it looks like. So
the buses were definitely running. Yeah.
So
I saw them a couple times.
That was good to see. We got there early enough, my dad and I, and we parked over by the pit side. And I want to say, and I wish this was done more often, I know they do it for Turkey Derby, that gate by the quarter midget track, by Little Wall, was open to get into the pit, so you could use the Little Wall's thing. And we had our printed home tickets. We handed that over. We got our wristbands, and we walked right in. Didn't have to walk all the way around to the back gate or anything like that.
You know what's funny about that? Like Elliot Wall called me on Friday. He's like, "Oh, you better get your pit pass on online. They might run out. You better do it now." I'm like, you know what? I saw Diane last week. She told me I can just buy my ticket at 1:00 on Saturday. I'm not worried about, you better get it. You're gonna miss out. Blah blah blah. I show up. He's in like this long will call line with his piece of paper that he printed off the computer. Meanwhile, where you just paid cash that day, Saturday, there was nobody in line. I walked right up to the window, got my pit pass, and walked right past him and started laughing.
Yeah, unfortunately, everybody that bought, and our mom included, got into that hype where you had to buy these pre-staged tickets, and then they think, well, at least if I buy them, I won't have to wait in line. But unfortunately, the line to redeem those tickets were longer than the regular line on when you were getting in. So
I only had to wait on 2 people when I got there. So I mean, it worked out for me at least. But I didn't have to get there as early as you guys.
Yeah, I'll tell you
what,
what,
you're 100% right. I think it's almost time that they start using the gate right there at the quarter midget track, like even the big gate where you pull it into the asphalt, and start using that back pit all the time. I just think that should be the new pits. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just seems like we're going in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I personally like it, especially when I'm walking in. If I'm not bringing a car, then yeah, it's great for me. I do see where now you have to hire more people, another security guard for the gate, another person or two to man the thing. So, I mean, I do see where the track may not immediately benefit.
But what I'm saying, like on a regular Saturday night where we sign in that little booth at the other gate where Lisa used to work at, like don't even use that. Bring that booth right up front there. You know what I'm saying? Just everybody going right through there, like make that the new gate, Yeah,
other than that, it might be a little bit of a tight turn for some of the people. That's the only downside I would see. But I think they could do it. I know you could do it. But
no, I mean, there's still. You still turn it into the same pits, you know what I'm saying? It's just the gate, you're using the gate further out instead of the gate further in,
Yeah, well, I was just thinking because you have that guardrail there from the parking lot, then you have to turn towards Little Wall and then through that other gate into the pits. I mean, if you
no, just walking in. The gate where the asphalt road is, like you're still pulling out. There's a gate right there,
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
So, but that worked out.
Before we get off the parking lot, I had to go out in the parking lot for something during the day, and I wanted to make sure I checked license plates. I did see a license plate from Ohio. I saw North Carolina ones. I saw a South Carolina one, and I saw a lot of New York, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania, and a few Massachusetts ones. So there were people from a lot of different states there for sure. So.
Yeah, it was a good crowd. Although I think some of the North Carolina was going to be default from some of the NASCAR officials, possibly. But no, they actually, if you ask Sam, they flew him up.
Yeah, most of the time they do. Yeah.
So that worked out well for him. It was really good to see Sam again. He got to hang down on the flag stand for the night, which is probably the last place I would have expected to see him. But that was pretty cool. So real quick, I want to call Sam out. I was hoping he would join us tonight. But did you guys notice that he broke the red light?
Well, he claims that he didn't break the light.
My brother did mention that to me. I didn't notice, but my brother said that was Sam's gig, screwing the lights up.
And it was a debacle with the spotting issue, but luckily we got through it. And apparently that guy Hammer Heating and Cooling, he came down and figured it out.
Yeah.
So,
well, he knows every wire on that track or that whole facility like the back of his
hand.
hand.
At one point, every color light was on, and then one time we were going green and the red was on, and I told Eric Goodell, I'm like, "Don't worry, boy, the red's rubber. We're going green here." And then at the last minute, they caught it. So,
what did Sam say went wrong? What happened?
He hasn't explained it to me yet. I didn't get a chance to really talk to him about it, but I just know that he was down the flag stand, and that's when everything went to hell with that. But I mean, to me, it was amusing because I mean, nobody.
That happened to me that one stint when I flagged that evergreen. The first thing they said, whatever you do, don't hit the red lights. Sure enough, there's a bad wreck, and they said throw the red, and I threw the red, and just out of habit, I threw the red lights, and every light shorted out. Actually, I see one of the evergreen officials cruising past me in a golf cart doing like 100 miles an hour to this little shack in the corner, and I guess that's where the fuse is, and you had to go change the fuse. They're like, we told you not to hit the red lights. So you said throw the red, and they're like, yeah, but don't put the lights on. I said, I don't know, I just hit the lights on so people can see the red. And
I would think a red flag with yellow lights would be a little confusing.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta, and I said, well, if you don't want the red lights hit, you should have like a piece of tape over the switch or something,
Now, just out of the whole night, the racing action was pretty wild, I think is the best description. And the four cylinders were probably the calmest. I think they went green the whole way. They had some pretty good racing. Neil Rutt got the win there. He had to go 3 wide to make the pass for the lead, which was pretty exciting to watch. Just overall great racing for them. Probably one of the more exciting four-cylinder races I've seen. The sportsmen were the sportsmen. They did what they do best. Keep wrecking and prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, guys.
I guess the feature, the finish of that feature was a little controversial. I heard a lot of booing in the interview.
There was a lot of booing. So I forget. I know it was Kyle Sisko and whoever else was fighting for the lead there.
Carson,
right? Was it?
Carson Di Tommaso.
They were bumping. They were bumping. They were nudging, and it was exciting, and it was fun. And I think Sisko gave him a little bump going in, and Carson must have come down on him. He wasn't thrilled about it. And then coming off of 2, Carson tried to hold Sisko down, like really tried to hold him down. And Sisko wasn't having it, so he pushed back, and it was just honestly, there was a stupid move on both of their parts, if you ask me. Kyle drove through him and spun him out, but Carson was doing it to himself by turning down on him, so it was just stupid. And
that's what they call a racing deal.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was certainly exciting. I just think it was stupid on both drivers, and they both should have been penalized for it. But other than that, it was just a lot of spins and crashes. I want to give a shout out to Jeff Lane and Eric Lane. Eric Lane, he's been putting a lot of effort and a lot of time into that new car, putting everything together, getting it just right. He hit the wall.
He wrecked it on the first lap, right?
Turn 1, lap 1, hit the wall, broke the right front. And, I mean, I think it's happened to all of us at some point, something stupid like that. But,
I talked to Jeff Lane over at Barney's. He said it was about $1,500 worth of damage.
My first thing when I saw Jeff was I asked if Eric was okay because I was worried about his wrist after he had hurt it pretty bad in a similar wreck years or a while back. So he said Eric was doing fine, was just angry or pissed off more than anything. So It sucks. I know they'll be back. They're good people, and hopefully it'll work out better the next time around.
Yeah,
it's just
they'll
a
be there this
shame.
week. I saw Jeff over at work, and Jeff said they'll be there this weekend.
So, the factory stocks, great show as always. And I mean, that's really what the crowd was there for, especially if you ask JC Duvall. I don't know if you guys saw his shirt, but
He had the shirt on. He had the best shirt of the night on. I did see that.
I'm only here for the factory stocks. And that shirt got a lot of reactions. I think that's probably one of our highest rated posts on the factory stock page. It had like 70 something reactions or likes. Or
And I will have to say that 3/4 of the modified tour spotting area was watching my brother out there, and Scott hung tough on the outside for as long as he could, and then somebody decided he was going to put him out of the ballpark, and then it was all.
Was that, I think it was Majek decided that he had more room to the high side than he really did.
He just came up like I wasn't there. It's a good thing I lifted. It would have been ugly if I didn't lift, but the problem was I also climbed the wall on the back straightaway. And then I'm still stuck on the outside. Now I got a vibration in the right front. So every time I'm going in the corner, I'm like, oh, this thing's going to blow out. And I'm going straight in the fence. So
I can't believe that tire held together, man. I can't. Yeah. I thought for sure you cut that tire down. And
so now, it's bad enough being stuck on the outside, hanging tough on the outside, and then having that in the back of your mind saying, man, this might end bad. But after a couple laps, I just said, screw it. If it hasn't blown out yet, it's not going to. I kept racing,
Yeah. Was it the lettering worn away or anything when you got out and looked at it?
The rim was bent. I think that's what the vibration was come from. I haven't had a real chance to look at my asphalt cars because I've been working on the dirt cars, but I did have it up on the lift, and I did peek my head under there, and I wiped the grease away from the ball joints. The ball joints don't look bent. I really think the vibration was just from the rim being bent.
Okay. It could have been a lot worse. I mean, I saw you get up in the air pretty good there, and I wasn't sure what the heck was going to happen.
Everybody behind me, like Mikey Montano and Richie Burns and all them, they came over and like, man, that almost got ugly. If it was anybody else other than you, we all would have been wrecked on the back straightaway. That situation right there, it could have got bad.
Oh yeah, I'm glad it worked out as well as it did. That was.
Me and Tim Majek have become close friends too. And after the race, he was parked right next to me in the pits, and he's like, "Great race!" I'm like, "Yeah, it was fun." Until you came up to me and put me in the wall. He's like, "I did."
Yeah, that was tight. I mean, I've had it done to me coming off of 4 and bounced off the wall before, but yeah, I never climbed it and got air like that. So, I mean, I'm glad your car held together. It was a good race, I think. You, like Tim said, you hung on the outside for a long time out there. I don't know if they had the sticky stuff down or not for you, but
yeah, they did.
Okay,
my car was actually good on the outside. Just everybody has the same power, so I mean, I can hang tough, but I can't clear them back to get low, And then finally, when the freight train did pass me, and when I did get back down low, I was able to pick up a few more spots,
Yeah. Oh, you wasted no time picking up spots once you got back in line.
Yeah, it's just it's a tough division. It's almost like now when you're racing in the beginning of the race, you almost want to be third or fifth or first. Like you want to be an odd number. This way, the yellow is going to come out sooner or later. This way, you're on the inside row. You know what I'm saying? And it was funny because me and Tim Majek talked about that. I said, I don't know if I should pass you right away because Elliott was on the pole. I'm like, I don't know if I should follow all the way through and pass you right away because the yellow's going to come out right away. And I did. I got the second. And the whole time I'm riding second, I'm like, the yellow's going to come out. And then me and him were battling after the first yellow. And we kind of want to cross the line together when the yellow came out. So we're both thinking like, hope we're third, not second. You know what I'm saying?
You take it. You take the spot.
It was like I've never been so happy to lose a spot. Because we both wanted to be on the inside. I'm like, I know. I said, Tim, you actually had like a bumper on me going across the line. He's like, no, I didn't. You were second, not me. I wanted to be third. Like we were fighting to be third, so we could be on the inside on the restart.
Who ran really well was Kevin Flores. He's getting better. He was doing pretty good.
Yes, definitely.
I was watching him for a while. He was doing good.
I'll tell you, everybody. There's 10 or 11 cars out there that can win. And it's going to get the factory stocks are going to get real interesting now because now that was our third race. So now we go into the handicap system. So now the faster guys are going to be starting in the back, and some of the slower guys will be starting up front. So that really mixes things up too.
I understand what they're doing with that. I just wish, especially for for this particular night with that crowd that you guys could have run heat races instead of single car qualifying. I think it would have got a lot more people really into it, personally, and just put on a better show. But that's not for me to.
And
decide.
just real quick, just to remind everybody, the factory stocks are off this weekend.
Yeah. So, but what else? Elliott took the win, right?
Yes.
And now
Tech.
There wasn't much of a tech. I mean, they were so busy in the pits, and Rob Heyer, our head tech official, he's also a crew member on
Andrew's car.
Andrew
Right?
Krause's car. So it was to basically, weigh you, check your weights, your rod heights and carburetor, and that was about it.
There was another incident. Brian O'Shea got turned around. It looked like he tried to come down a little too early. He wasn't clear yet. Then Koenig basically, instead of letting him save it, which now this is just something I've seen. I don't want to call out Jerry specifically, but I think it's just a general thing that's been happening more in the division. Is the guys aren't letting the other guy save it. Or giving him a chance. I was always a big fan of, all right, just lift for a second, let the guy save it, and then pass him or whatever you got to do.
I did it on the last lap with Joey Helberg. Joey Helberg was driving Mikey Montano's other car.
Yeah.
He got loose. We were coming to the line, he got loose between 3 and 4, and he got sideways, and I went under him, and he came across my nose, and I was right there, and I was right on his quarter pushing him. I could have just turned him around easy, but I just let off and let him correct it. Because, even if it's not my fault, and he spins across the nose of my car, they're going to put me to the back, so it's not even worth doing it.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
But I've seen a lot of guys lately been driving through the guy when they come across just to finish him off. And then,
I know a whole backstory to that Tim O'Shea. I know that not Tim O'Shea, Brian O'Shea, Jerry Koenig deal.
Oh, yeah, I know there's
a
little bit more. Go ahead.
After the race, I guess Jerry was mad, yelling at Tim and Brian and saying, every time I wreck here, the O'Shea car is involved, and Tim's like, all right, well, let me go watch the video and I'll let you know, what I see. And he came back to Jerry. He says, you're 100% right. That was my son's fault. And, I'll help fix your car, So I think Tim bought him like fenders and a nose piece and everything to fix his car. And I talked to Jerry on Monday because I had a transmission question. Jerry builds transmissions for a living. And he said that Brian O'Shea called him and apologized and was sincere about it. And they talked and everything's fine. So.
Well, that's good. I hate seeing when they drive through them and finish them off, because that caused, I think, Brian to roll back up the track a little bit, and then Whelen Spear.
Yeah, you're all right. I mean, you're making a bad situation even worse. You know.
Because then Whelen drove into, I think it was O'Shea or Jerry. Jerry got his nose folded up a bit in the fenders. Brian had some damage. Whelen had damage. I think Teresa Collins had her the vinyl Monte Carlo nose fold up into the bumper area, and it bent up cars that didn't have to be bent up. So it's a stupid thing. I think that overall all the guys need to back off just a hair.
And that's exactly what I did when me and Tim got together on the back straightaway. I mean, that could have got ugly if I kept my foot in it, but you let off and you race, you survive that straight away and you race through the next corner. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly. I mean, I'm not saying.
But what happens too when you're on the outside, somebody and they come up, it pisses you off. So then you're like, you just keep your foot in it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm more experienced than that.
I remember that happened between me and Bill Stockert once. I don't know if it was a regular race or an enduro or what. I think it was an enduro. And same thing. He didn't know that I was there. I was up touching the wall, and he came up and a little bit of contact, and I was so afraid that I was going to send him head on into the wall that I backed out of it real quick.
Well, that's exactly it. I had Tim sideways, and Tim had himself sideways when he came across my nose on the back straightaway. Yeah. And all I can think was him going into that pit gate. You know what I'm saying? And I just jammed on their brakes and let him clear me and get off my nose and straighten his car out so he didn't go into that pit gate,
Yeah. So I even apologized to Stockert after that. He's like, oh, no, don't worry about it. I didn't know you were there. I was like, yeah, still, I don't want to get anybody hurt. I want to go out there and have a good time. I want to, just enjoy what we're doing. So, but still, it was a pretty good race for the factory stocks, I thought. There was one long caution for, Kane, leaking fluid and stuff. They had some cleanup to do. But beyond that, it was okay. The Sportsman actually got kicked off a lap early, thankfully, because they ran up to their time limit. the factories made it in, and we weren't sure they were going to for a minute. But yeah, the factories got their whole thing in. There was plenty of time for NASCAR to take over and get the tour mods out there and do the driver introductions and all that stuff. Which, I mean, it's just something we're not used to seeing there. Although, I mean, I've seen the cars lined up for the on-track parties and stuff before, but doing driver introductions, kind of like they do in Atlantic City and things like that, it was quite a show. And
that used to be a big thing too. When me and Tim were kids, I mean, all the big races they would used to do that. I remember one time, Tim, I think it was at New Egypt. Remember they had limos. The limos brought the drivers out to their cars. They had the cars all lined up on the track, and then the drivers came out in limousines.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, there was like a limo company that bought like 10 limos, and they would drop, a driver off. They'd introduce him, and then the limo would go back in the pits and grab another one. You know what I'm saying? It was pretty cool.
So then I guess we'll dive into the race now. Now, a lot of people have been complaining about the number of wrecks, and I think Eric Graham said it best. Lack of experience at Wall can be a very dangerous thing. A lot of these guys haven't driven at Wall before, and it's a tight track. And I never really thought of it as a tight track until I thought about some of the other tracks that these guys run at, where they have a fair amount of runoff room and place to escape wrecks when they happen. I also
noticed some of these tour guys that don't have much experience at Wall Stadium, they were like running a real weird line. They were staying high up through the corners, and they were real high.
Yeah,
coming off of the two. You know what I'm saying? They were almost into the second lane while they were supposed to be on the bottom. You know.
I saw that with a few cars too. Even during qualifying, they were running this weird line, trying to run the zipper, and I was like, "That's not the line you run here." And it just seems to me like it should be natural that you'd be down lower, but maybe they're used to other tracks where you do run higher up for whatever reason. And
it's not just the modified tour. I remember when I ran the American race truck series, we had guys. We had a New England division, and when those guys would come down, they ran like the same line too, up high like that. I'm like, what are these guys doing way up there? And
so that was interesting. I know, but anyway, so yes, there were a lot of cautions. There were a couple times I'd even admit that NASCAR seemed to take a bit longer than necessary for cautions to get filed up and get going. And I don't know if that was related to getting cars in position or...
Oh, yeah, that had a lot to do with the scoring.
Okay. Because otherwise, I mean, it was really interesting to see how NASCAR came in and, how they take over, and now they're in charge. They're running everything at that point. And it was kind of cool to see.
I just think the last 25 laps of that race should be... the caution laps shouldn't count, because they all had like fresh tires on, and then there was a restart, like there was a yellow came out on like lap 132. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be a great like 18 lap shootout. And then by the time they went to go green again, it was like lap 144. I'm like, oh. Yeah,
they end up having to go to a green-white checkered in overtime just to finish under green. So yeah, I could see where you're going with that, Scott. I mean, as long as fuel doesn't really become an issue, because I hate fuel mileage races. But I mean, there was a fair amount of cleanup. I'll tell you. If the tour comes back, and I hope that they do, I'm going to invest in Speedy Dry, because they went through, I can't tell you how much. They had to refill that hopper a few times on that truck.
Well, me and Nancy were in the Riggleman Towing Suite over there on turn 3. Meaning me and her were sitting in my tow truck. We were calling it the Speedy Dry 150 instead of the Jersey Shore 150.
Yeah. That's a fair assessment. Your emergency lights got a good workout too. And after who was it that rode the guardrail in 3 and 4? There,
Cecily, right?
Was it?
Yeah, Cecily.
Yeah.
I was actually concerned about your truck at one point.
Yeah.
But all right, enough of that. Honestly, some people have been bashing it, and honestly, I have to say it was one of the most exciting modified races I've ever seen.
Well, see, there you go. Right there you go. You don't get excited about a modified racing.
I never do, and that was exciting.
And I'm amazed you say that too, because the whole time I'm sitting in the tow truck, I was like, hopefully, this is a good race, because Josh always puts the modifieds down, but he's never seen a modified tour race. And then I said to Nancy, I said, yeah, figures, modified tours here, and Josh is here, and it's the worst modified tour race I've ever seen. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I thought the racing at first was good. It just got crazy after they pitted like that. They go in there, and first of all, they get not only new tires, they get a softer tire. So it it makes
I
racing
didn't know
a little
about
bit different.
that. I didn't know that was
We
a
have
softer tire.
we have to start on a harder tire, and then you can come in and you can put a softer tire on.
I didn't like that it was a competition caution. Just personal opinion. I thought that they should have come in under a regular caution and said, all right, you pit or you don't. And that would have been it. It was honestly just an insane race. And, yeah, there were times they got a little strung out. But they were running hard the whole time.
But then again, Josh, it was NASCAR's first time back in a long time, and I'm sure they can take that product that they had there Saturday night and tweak it a little bit if they come back next year. If they come back next year, they might make a few changes. Who knows? It might be a 200 lapper, it might be a 125 lapper. You don't know. I'm sure NASCAR took notes, and they learned a lot too to put a better show on for the fans next time they come.
I'm sure that.
Plus, they come back next year. Now all the tour guys have been there before, and I'm sure they wrote down notes and learned a lot too. So I definitely think if we're lucky enough to have next year and the tour being there next year, I think it will be a better race next time around.
I think, like you said, yeah, they took notes. I think more of the guys will try to take advantage of a practice opportunity at the track, maybe a week or so before, and just try it out to be ready for it. I think that maybe more of them will play some iRacing or something and get used to how tight the track is, or that bump coming off a 2 or whatever it is. Some of the guys made stupid moves. Some of the guys made douchebag moves. That's racing. That's what happens. But overall, I thought it was a really entertaining race. It was certainly exciting. Was it the cleanest or most professional race? No, it wasn't. But I was paying attention.
I definitely think the fans got their money's worth. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
I don't think anybody that left there disappointed and saying that I'll never go back there. I think when I look at an event, I don't really look at just the race itself. I look at the whole day, and I think the whole day was enjoyable. The weather was good. The
weather was perfect. You were probably happy to be in that fire suit at night. It was cold.
Yeah, and I mean, there was plenty of food there. I mean, the lines for the concessions were long. People were getting food. I mean, NASCAR does a great job with that little autograph session they do. They had all the drivers in the grandstands. Hey, I think it was a great day at the racetrack. I really enjoy it, and I hope we do it again next year.
I really hope that it does happen again next year. I don't know if Diane or Andrew or anybody listens to this.
Now, do you think it would be a mistake if the track maybe booked 2 tour races next year?
Do I think that if that's too much?
Yeah. Do you think they should?
I don't know how it would
like one special event.
Because
they can do one in May, and then they can do another one like September and August. Space it out, something like that.
I'm not against it. I just don't know how having a second one would affect the first one, because this is the only one this year, so everybody came to the track.
Right.
So will it hurt attendance knowing that they can go to the next one?
Well, that's my question, because I remember when we were kids, they used to have monster truck shows there, and they would have one a year, and it would be packed, sold out. Yeah. So then they're like, we'll start having 2, and then it watered it down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't think that it would be bad, mainly because Wall is pretty unique. Nothing against any other racetracks. I just think that Wall is its own type of monster, and if we get action like that, that can make even these top name, supposedly professional, race car drivers, not know how to drive anymore. Essentially, I think it's an action-packed race, and if you get that product again, or even anything halfway close to what they had, people will come. Where's James Earl Jones when you need him? People will come, Ray.
I feel a little bit better about my driving, though, after watching the tour guys struggle at Wall Stadium. And then they saying this is a very tough track. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I got 40 feature wins there. I must be pretty good,
I was going to start this this whole segment about the tour racing. The NASCAR Whelen Sportsman Tour.
Yeah, I heard a lot on it, the Sportsman Tour. But I don't say nothing bad about the Sportsman on this show anymore because Brian Sisko's listening. It's all Josh Matthews talking bad about
That's fine.
the Sportsman.
I'll say it right to his face.
Tim, anything else you want to say about your modified tour buddies? I know you were saying a lot of them asking you where they wanted to go to eat and stuff like that. You have any good stories about the?
Yeah. First, before we get off the race, I thought the race was good. There was a lot of passing on the outside. Doug Kobe, Justin, Doug Kobe, and Kraus, they all passed for the lead many times. There was a lot of lead changes, and you don't see a lot of that on Saturday night. And those guys ran good. Ronnie Silk ran very well. I feel bad for him. He was on the inside of the front row there, and he never even got going. He got taken out on that one restart on the front stretch. I think he probably ended up winning that race at that point. My driver, Eric, did really well. We started way in the back, and he worked his way up to the outside, and we had a good shot to win all the way to the end. Just at that last restart, we got shuffled back per scoring. We weren't really where we were supposed to be for the scoring, and that hurt us. I can't wait to go back.
Excuse, right, Josh?
I can't wait to go back. So it was good. As far as the food goes, it's funny you say that. The spotter official messaged me on Facebook on Friday night and said we're staying in Red Bank, where to go, and they wanted steak. So I told them to go to the Poorhouse in Tinton Falls because they have really good steak there.
Okay.
But then they ended up where they wanted pizza, so I told them to go to the Brothers restaurant in Red Bank. You ever been to Brothers? It's like a Sopranos feel inside. It's old school Italian, like where the mafia would eat back in the 50s.
Do you get shot?
And 60s. No. And they went there to eat, and a couple of the officials that I hardly ever talked to came up and said that was a good place to go. The food was real good there, so they did that. And I told Ronnie Silk Spotter to get chicken fingers and French fries, and that's what he got at the track, and he enjoyed that. So
good.
Can't go wrong.
Let me ask both of you guys. Out of we had a 28 car field, right? Now, if you were going to be a betting person, would any of you have put money on who we got as Woody Pitcat winning?
Well, going into the race last week, I mentioned this being what do they call it, like Talladega, crapshoot race or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Woody winning, people forget Woody 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, now I guess it is 4 years ago. Woody Pitcat was the man to beat. He won a lot of races. He was the man to beat. And I know what you're saying. I wouldn't have picked Woody to win, but I'm happy for Danny Watson. Those guys, they do a hell of a job trying to keep that car going, and he was capable of winning. Half the thing is he kept his nose clean. He was there where he needed to be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about him, but out of the people that you would think Blewett or Kraus to be favorites and stuff like that.
I can say that, and Bailey reminded me of it. On my Facebook, they put their top 5, and she did pick Blake Barney to finish second in the race. So,
wow.
and we haven't mentioned that yet. I'm glad you brought that up, Tim. And congratulations to Blake Barney. I'm pretty sure that's his best finish on the modified tour. And
that was an incredible finish.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I think if he had a few more laps, he could have won that race, because when they were getting ready to go green again, I looked up, he was third on the last restart there, and he was the only car that really wasn't bent up or had any damage. I said, he's in the best shape here, and he ran really good.
I think he proved himself, and I think he probably gained, not that anybody had a problem with him, but I think he gained a lot of respect for that too. Granted, it is his home track, and he has a lot of experience there. But Kraus had one hell of a run, and he got robbed, I think, with Kobe spinning and then sliding up the track, which caused him to hit the outside wall. Other than that, he was incredibly strong on the outside. And challenging. He led quite a few laps. I feel bad for Andrew. I think he got robbed on that. I don't know. I think Blewett was having a lot of problems with his car, like it shutting off and stuff like that.
Well, I think Jimmy said his problem started sooner. I think he said Kobe ran him up on the defense on one of the restarts earlier in the race. So I don't know.
I will say Kobe, I did see when he was racing on the inside of Kraus, he was running Andrew up pretty high in the turns to make it hard.
Pretty high, real high.
Yeah, really.
Down the straightaway, too.
Then again, it goes back to Scott said a lot of guys were on different lines, period, if there was a car on the outside of them or not,
Yeah. I mean, that's what he was doing. I mean, he wasn't doing anything illegal. I'm not even sure you can really even call it dirty, but yeah, he was running them up real high, and that's how he was holding on. But Andrew was, being mature about it and just hanging on.
You can't take nothing away from Andrew. He was definitely running good on the outside. If those two still would have been first and second with 10 to go, 10 green flag laps to go, it would have been very interesting what would have happened, but would have been a hell of a race. But hopefully next year.
Yeah,
one thing I did notice after the race that the top three did pull down in victory lane, and Blake Barney did get out and get interviewed, and he got a great applause from the fans. Is that something they do at all the tour races? Did they pull the top three?
Top three, yeah.
Okay, good.
See, I like that. Tim's against that podium finish and stuff. We talked about that earlier. I think that's a good idea.
Well, I think it's good because you get the interviews, and that was important. Because that was going on to the TV. What was it? They had to do the whoever gets the first interview with Woody before Gary or before I'm sorry
TV got him.
TV gets the first. TV should go first.
Yeah.
We've got to mention Sapienza.
It was a mess coming across the finish line. I don't know who dive bombed who in turn 3.
It's Sapienza.
Yeah, it looked to me like Sap got, and they stayed in the case trying to get across the finish line. And
he wasn't lifting for nothing, man. He got up on that guy's wheel between 3 and 4, and Sap never lifted. He bounced off the wall, climbed over the car, and he was making it to that finishing line no matter what.
Yeah.
And luckily he was okay, and luckily whatever photographer that was, I guess it was Scott, you know who that was.
Yeah, Kristen Coco.
What she was looking at, I have no idea, but it wasn't at the front straightaway.
Well, I was sitting all the way in turn 1 in that other little gated off area, and I just saw tires flying and steam, and I thought she got hit with radiator fluid or whatever. I thought she was going to be hurt pretty bad. But
all I saw was Sapienza. I saw a yellow vest standing there. I seen Sapienza's car hit the guardrail and jump up in the air, and then I didn't see a vest anymore. And I'm like, oh my God, there's someone pinned underneath that race car.
Yeah, it was certainly scary. Now I know a lot of people were complaining about that the barrier wasn't protected. There were tires in front of the barrier.
It was. He just blew through them.
He certainly did.
Matter of fact, I'm friends with Kristen Coco, and I did message her, and she said that's what hit her, a tire.
Okay.
A tire did fly up when he hit, and the tire hit her and pushed her away from the accident. So everything worked the way it was supposed to work. And Kristen is fine. She says the tire hit her, but it was, I think she called it like a flea flicker or something like that.
Yeah.
A flea flicker and just knocked her forward. And she said that she talked to Dave Sapienza personally. NASCAR has contacted her. Everybody's talked about the situation. Everybody's happy that for the most part, everybody's okay, except Dave got injured a little bit.
Yeah, that was the other thing. Initially, Sapienza was sore, but going to make the next race. I believe it's Seekonk. But now, after seeing a doctor, it does turn out he has, I believe it was a lower back injury, and he's going to be out indefinitely. And for the next race, possibly to the Bowman Gray All-Star, Burt Myers is going to be driving the car.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Bert's a good race car driver, and can't take nothing away from him because he's from Bowman Gray. He's been to the same track as we have 3 or 4 times, starting to book it together, and Bert's running right up with those guys. He's very capable of winning, and the Grosso brothers that set up Sapienza's car are very famous in the pit area. There's no doubt that Bert can win in that car, so I'm interested to see Bert in that car.
It'll certainly be interesting to see how that turns out. Let's see. What else I was going to say? There was one thing I want to bring up. Dave Sapienza, obviously, he had been a past guest on the show. Scott, you mentioned maybe it's the podcast curse. Although I think well, it's happened a few times, but at the same time, Bonsignor did okay after we talked to him, so maybe we're not terrible. Now, there was something else I noticed. Well, Scott, you had said everyone that was going to be track crew or towing or anything like that had to be in a fire suit. What was it? Fireproof underwear, fire suit, and helmet?
Yeah, fluorescent vest. Or fluorescent fire suit, yeah.
Okay.
They had nice new orange fire suits for all those guys.
I was going to say that seeing all the track crew in those bright orange fire suits, they look snazzy. I mean, it looked really professional to have all those guys wearing the same uniform. It looked really professional. It did. It looked like an IndyCar race or a NASCAR when all the guys come out there and, they know their position. I mean, the track crew's great anyway, but seeing them all, wearing a proper uniform was great. Now, I'm sure it's hot as balls in the summer, pick an August night down there. It's going to be frustrating. But if it keeps them safe and keeps them visible, and it makes the track look that much better, in my opinion. I don't know. I know it's not exactly directly related to racing product, but just giving the track a good image, I like that.
Josh, what's kind of weird? Like, we're doing the show real late tonight. This is the most you ever talked on any of our podcasts.
all that Gatorade Zero he's got packed over there.
Scott got me into the Gatorade Zero. I'm not going to lie.
You got more Gatorade Zero than Wawa does over there.
Anything else you want to say about Wall Stadium, about the tour race? I'm ready to move on here. I think it was a great weekend.
Thumbs up or thumbs down? I mean, you come back.
Thumbs up, man. Let's do it again next year.
I think Josh's enthusiasm for he's never talked that much about a modified race ever. So that goes to show to me that the modified tour race brings excitement. Josh, you are now
that has to be
a modified fan.
That's possibly the best modified race I've ever seen.
Well, you need to come to a different.
You gotta go to Thompson, dude. You gotta go to Thompson. You want to see a real modified race.
All right, maybe. So let's see, you guys. Just so you know, you remember to invest in Speedy Dry, though.
I meant to walk over to the grandstands. Did you see if they had an event T-shirt for sale?
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know. Did they?
There was hoodies or T-shirts. Hopefully, there's going to be some. I meant to get one, and I got distracted by talking to God knows how many people.
And it was a Jersey Shore 150 T-shirt.
Well, it had it was a NASCAR Whelen Tour modified shirt. I forget what was on the front. On the back, they had the whole like just like a concert, like a tour shirt, all the dates, and Wall was highlighted in red.
Okay.
So it was specific for the event, which was cool. I thought it looked pretty cool. I'm going to see if I can go back and get one if there's any left.
Before we get out of Wall, we're talking about the fans. I want to mention a lot of people that I haven't seen at the racetrack in years that were there. Pete Miletto was there. I saw him. Walt Stubbs, who writes for used to race for Area Race News, he was there. I haven't seen him in a long time. Felix Berlingeri was there. God knows the last time he was out.
Someone had to pay his way in.
I think Stern probably paid his way in, yeah. There was tons of people there. It was really good to see. I saw Timmy Airy was there. Dave Michael was there. While old school race car drivers have done successful on the series.
Another thing I want to say real too quick. It was cool that she lifted the camera ban.
Yeah.
And it was definitely cool seeing how many people bought their cameras there and how many people were posting pictures on Facebook. And they post some really great pictures on Facebook. I just want to thank everybody for posting picters on Facebook. And then
James Gerald had some great pictures he posted shots of all the different divisions.
I actually, I'll have to admit, I stole one of his pictures from my Facebook.
Yeah, I did too. He had great shots of me and Nancy on the back straightaway all the way from the grandstands, and they came out awesome.
I actually got to see him for a couple minutes, and I've seen so many pictures come out of all the divisions and advertising. And a lot of people had video cameras there. Scott, before you ask, no, I didn't bring my video camera. I'm sorry. I should have, but I was just trying to take in the night and enjoy it.
I tell you what, Josh, you were the original gangster over there with your video camera, but you go on YouTube and just put Wall Stadium Saturday night, and so many people are filming it now. It's unreal.
Yeah, but they don't have all the in-cars like I do.
Yeah.
So, but that said, overall, yeah, it was great, and I really hope that that she allows the cameras to come back. I just think it's good for the track. In the long run, I believe it's a good thing.
If people enjoy taking pictures, Wall Stadium's a great place to take pictures at. Whatever they want to, whatever gets them to the track, let them take pictures. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. One thing I wanted to bring up, we got an email from a listener, Bill Schwartz. He drives the 71 4-cylinder at Wall. He's also a trustee and novice director at the quarter midget track. And he just wants us to promote the club, and they're going to have an arrive and drive on June 1st. So a lot of the drivers at the big track started with the quarter midgets. I mean, go ahead. I was going to say, I know right now some of the big ones. I mean, Paulie Hartwig the third, Cole Mullen, ran quarter midgets for how long, and now he's running the TQs. I mean,
Eric Moriello, he's another big name, one of the best modified drivers at Wall Stadium. He started with the quarter midgets.
And so it's the arrive and drive is a cool thing. I know a lot of times they'll have something like that where, kids can come and try out. They provide the gear. And here, try this. See if this is something you want to get into. That way, you don't have to buy a car and the whole mess, just to find out whether or not you like it. This will let the kid get in, try it, and Dad, I want to keep doing this, and then you have a place to go. So he also said if anybody has any questions, he'd be more than happy to answer them. He left a phone number. So Bill Schwartz. 732-829-2088. Once again, that is 732-829-2088. So yeah, give him a call if you have any questions about Little Wall or just you want to talk racing. Probably he'll probably sit there for a couple hours with you because I can't get rid of these two knuckleheads.
Hey, Josh, I had a great joke set up for you for tonight, but you're blowing it with this great attitude you have tonight, and you're loving everything. I was going to say, unfortunately, the internet sensation Grumpy Cat died, but I was going to say, the thing that saves us from that is we still have Grumpy Josh, but you changed it around. You're in the best mood ever tonight. You ruined my perfect joke tonight.
I'm so sorry to disappoint you, Scott.
All right, let's move on with the show. Let's get this over. It's 11:30 already.
Yeah, I had a couple people come up and talk to me about it. You want to do that later on? You want to do that now?
What's that, Tim?
People came over to talk to me about the podcast. Do you want to do that now?
I don't care.
The one, Josh, I think you were sitting with me for the one. The kid came over. I forget his name. He told me his name, and I forgot it because of the race and everything. But he said he wanted him and his father. They like the part where we talk about what you eat at the racetrack, and he asked me if I remembered eating the pierogies at Flemington Speedway, and I told him I was sorry that I didn't. But Scott, you said you remember them.
Yeah, I remember pierogies because they came in like this big paper cone, like a cone, like the paper cones that you use for like Italian ices, But it was like real big, and that's what they put 4 or 5 pierogies in it. That's why I remember them selling pierogies at Flemington.
That's crazy.
And then I had quite a few people come over to me and just say they enjoyed the show and they listen to it. It's funny how some people listen to it in their truck. Well, one guy's a painter. He listens to it while he's painting somebody's house and, stuff. It's cool. I'm sorry I can't remember any. If you message us on Facebook or underneath comment under the YouTube thing, I can go back and remember your name and mention your name, but I can't remember if I'm at the racetrack. So sorry.
Or you can email us, racingpodcastnj@gmail.com.
Oh, and speaking about that kid, James, you see, he wants a shirt, Josh. I saw that.
Yeah, I did talk. He said a large. I have to find my box of shirts, and I'll get one.
I tell you what, I seen a few people walking around with RPM podcast shirts.
Aaron Lineman had one on. I had one on because I got to try. I was trying to stand.
One. I think I just have the polo that we wore at
from the live show.
Motorsports. Yeah.
There was one of the camera guys for I guess for NBC or Fans Choice or whatever. They were filming. I think it was in Goodale's pit, and I just tried to stand where I would be kind of in the way a little bit with my back to the camera with the RPM podcast logo, just to try to get us out there. But yeah.
All right, guys. We've been on 1 hour. We're still in the first topic of our.
All right. super quick, the All-Star race, NASCAR. I have to say there was a Ferris wheel there. Thank you, Rick Patterson. Kevin Harvick had the millennial scheme, paint scheme, livery, whatever. Honestly, it was stupid because it's more Generation Z than millennial, but people are stupid and they don't get it. Anyway, I have to say, after watching it, I did watch it on demand or the replay. That was some of the best racing I've seen, especially at Charlotte, in a long time. The cars, they were swapping positions. They were all over the place. They were going 4 wide in front of the flag stand.
Now, are they running the same rules package for the 600, or is it going to be different?
God, I hope they run the same package. I don't know for sure. That's one question I was not prepared for. But regardless of all that, Kyle Busch was really upset with something with the handling of his car. And it was cool to see him that excited over a non-points race. He just wants to drive. He just wants to win. The one thing everybody keeps talking about or bringing up is the fight between Clint Bowyer and Ryan Newman, which was Clint Bowyer running up and punching Ryan Newman while he was still strapped into the car. And I think the whole thing was kind of stupid, but it was amusing. And oddly enough, I like both of those guys a lot because Ryan Newman will drive anything. He just wants to race. Clint Bowyer, I think, is an amusing, funny guy. So
I think they're both frustrated. They're not really doing all that well, either one of them.
Yeah,
I know that was a funny comment I saw underneath one of the posts. They posted the highlights on NASCAR.com of the fight, and someone posted, "I didn't even know Clint Bowyer and Ryan Newman still raced."
What is it? What was the problem? Why, Josh? What did happen on the track?
So apparently, Clint Bowyer thought that Newman got into him or got in his way. Clint said he thought that Newman was already a lap down, and then Newman got into him and then turned him around again after the race ended. It was under yellow, and he got into him. So he went back and at him, and he just wanted to take a few shots. And a few of those shots certainly connected if you looked at his face on the interview afterwards.
Yeah, he was a little bubbled up there, yeah.
But that's really all I have on that. I honestly just watched the race. It was exciting. It was worth it.
He did get Coca-Cola in there, though.
Yeah.
His face was all busted up, but he was still drinking that Coke.
Well, it's nice and cold. It gets the swelling down.
I thought it was ironic. The two biggest topics of that race was Kyle Larson winning and Clint Bowyer punching Ryan Newman in the face. And all I can think about is we're talking about Clint Bowyer punching Ryan Newman in the face. And,
he punched the wrong guy.
And Josh wants to punch Kyle Larson in the face. That was perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that,
who transferred from the one race into the other?
Well, that was kind of weird too. If you want to talk about that real quick. Not only did they take the winner out of the open race, they took the stage winners out. That's how Bubba Wallace got in. And
that's not right.
Yeah, so they had 3 people from I call it the non-winners race. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's basically what it is. It's nobody that's won. So there
shouldn't even be a stage in that. It should be 50 or whatever, 25, 30 laps and just go.
So it was Kyle Larson actually advanced because he won the Open too, I think, right, Josh? That's how he got into the All-Star race. And then
I think that's how it went. Yeah.
And Bubba Wallace won a stage. I forget who the third person was that got in from there. It might have been like Austin Dillon or somebody. I forget.
Was it Eric? No, it wasn't Eric Jones.
It might have been. I don't know.
Yeah, and Eric Jones didn't have a good night. He was up there and then he wasn't. So moving on from that, let's see.
But then again, I'm complaining that these guys moved up from the open race, but Kyle Larson ended up winning the race, and Bubba Wallace, I think, finished 5th in it. So they did run good once they got up in there,
Yeah, that was actually a pretty good run for Richard Petty.
He needed it.
Yeah, they need it, yeah. Although we're still waiting to hear exactly what happens with that. Let's see. Al Unser Jr. arrested for operating under the influence. That's a new one for me.
Yeah, it's not the first time if you read that article.
He's got a little bit of history with drinking. He likes to sip all Grandpa's cough medicine down. That's for sure.
Yeah, so we'll see how that turns out. Dick Trickle had a statue put up in his honor,
that's
of him.
cool.
Yeah, that means a lot to a lot of people. Dick Trickle, he might not have been the best Cup Series driver, but
he was a journeyman racer, right?
Yeah, he was all over he's raced modifieds in Smyrna. He's raced everything. And what people don't realize too is he did a lot of the testing for IROC.
Okay.
So he got to know a lot of people, crew members and race car drivers, and that means a lot to a lot of people. That I know it's just a statue, but it reminds people of Dick Trickle. So good.
Yeah, I know it's running late, but I got a quick Scott Riggleman Dick Trickle story if you want to hear it real quick.
Let's go. Sure. Let's go.
We were in Daytona, and that's pretty much when the Hutchinson device first came out. That was before the Hans device. You remember that one? It kind of looked like straps run around your chest. Yeah, it was exactly. That's where the story's going anyway. So Dick Trickle was out on the track.
Kentucky Fried Chicken over there, sucking on your finger.
A pickle.
Oh, God.
I'm telling you, I'm starving. It's been a long day. So I had friends that worked at IROC, like Tim says, a lot of people from, IROC was in New Jersey. We knew a lot of people. So we were in the IROC pit during Speedway, me and Nancy, while the IROC cars were testing. And like Tim just said, Dick Trickle was a test driver for him. And so was Jay Sauter, Jim Sauter, Johnny Sauter's father, and Jay Sauter's father. Anyway, he comes in after and he gets out of the car. And I said, Dick, can I get a picture with you? He's like, yeah, sure you can. He's like, so he's standing there next to me, and Nancy's taking a picture. He's like, wait, don't take the picture yet. Let me take this stupid bra off, because he had the Hutchinson device on. So he wanted to take his Hutchinson device off before we got our picture taken. And he hung out with us. He was a great guy. He was a lot of fun to talk to about racing. And I told him I was a huge modified fan, and I remember him driving Joe Brady's car over at New Smyrna, and he was just cool to talk to.
That's great.
He's got to be a badass. He had a cigarette lighter put in all his race cars that he drove. He had to smoke while I was out there racing.
You know what's funny about that? He was smoking that day when we were hanging out with him. But I just heard that Dale Jr. used to smoke cigarettes too, and his wife finally made him quit.
He hit it well, that's for sure.
Yeah, who knew? I'd never seen the guy with a cigarette before in my life,
And he was sponsored by Budweiser for how many years, and I never saw him with a freaking beer in his hand.
I was going to say that must be Winston's fault. Corrupted a little kid at the racetrack.
You got to get them while they're young, So, all right, what else? Tim, you put in here Tim Brown and his young teammate split the Bowman Gray modified wins.
I put that in there for our buddy Eric Brennan, but considering he's not here to talk about it,
and he wasn't at Bowman Gray because he was busy with the karting.
So apparently Tim Brown, there was two features. Tim Brown won one, and then I saw this video of this young kid, and he must have been his first win because he was all emotional. And I noticed all Tim Brown's guys were in victory lane, and they weren't there to beat him up. Not like he took him at Tim Brown out. He was there to celebrate. And so apparently Tim Brown has a teammate or a protege. He won. He won the second feature there this weekend.
Good. That's nice.
And then the lady won, Amber something.
Yeah, Amber Lynn. She's the first woman driver to win a sportsman or modified race at Bowman Gray. Which is, I'm surprised it took this long.
Yeah, I mean, there's more girls racing now than ever, So.
Oh yeah. Tim, I wanted to ask you: were the girls involved in that American flag quarter midget thing?
No,
they don't run quarter midgets; they run go karts.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Well, you know what I meant. Let's see. The Indiana State Fairgrounds closing. Final race.
Yeah,
Tim, you sent that to us. You want to talk about that a little bit?
That's just that race was as big as the Indy 500 at one point in time. It's just sad to see another great American racetrack being closed. I really don't know why. If it's a state fairground, I'm sure it's the state has something to do with closing it down. Not paying.
It might be because it's probably 100 years old. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it is 100 years old. Yeah.
Wow.
Tim, but with that being said, did you see that they put dirt down on the Nashville Fairgrounds on the small track in the middle to run the World Outlaw sprint cars?
Yeah, that should be cool. That should be cool.
Also, I saw some video of it. The Lucas Oil Speedway got hit by that tornado or that big
Oh,
storm.
God, man, that thing got
the
destroyed.
grandstands looked like the Hindenburg when it blew up. It was just all mangled mess.
I've seen
Whoa,
funnel
it was bad.
cakes that were more organized than that. It was,
Yeah.
that was wrecked. There were trailers flipped over and pushed through catch fences and stuff like that. I don't believe anyone was injured, amazingly. But a lot of stuff got destroyed, and that's going to cost quite a bit to fix. I mean, the worst thing was probably there was sheet metal laying all over the place, but those grandstands were just twisted up. Like,
And there are big races coming up too. I think in like 2 weeks or something like that.
yeah.
So
Well, I wish them the best. Hopefully, they can get something back together. I mean, that's just insane. What else? There was going to be something else, and I lost it. Real quick, Niki Lauda, famous F1 racer, suffered severe burns in that fire many years ago. He passed away, 70 years old, just the other day. And beyond that, we had Indy 500 qualifying. Fernando Alonso did not make it. They were talking about possibly buying him a seat, buying out somebody else's position, putting him in that car, but they decided not to.
I also heard they have like a $50,000 hospitality set up for the Indy 500 and they're not in the race.
They're hosting a failure party, basically. It's they had like suites and food and catering and everything else set up. It cost about $50,000. And they're going to go through and they're going to bring all their people in and here, watch the race. Yeah, you already paid for it.
I forget who it was, but I remember I was at a cup race one time and that team failed to qualify. Well, the driver just went up to the suite and sat with the weather. I mean, the food's already paid for. Everything's paid for. You can't back out now. You might as well go do it. So what they did to save it, they bought the race car over into the grandstand side and they had the race team and the driver up in the suite with the sponsors and the fans and everything and just made a day out of it. What are you going to do? It happens,
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they're going through with that. They seem to be taking their failure on the chin. I know the one guy that was it Bernier or something like that? They're parting ways. He was kind of heading up their Indy program.
Yeah, I heard they fired him pretty quick.
Well,
pretty much.
I did also read that his contract only led up to this Indy 500.
Yeah.
So,
I heard he got fired as soon as they realized they didn't qualify.
Yeah. Well,
as soon as the gun sounded and the field was set, he was fired.
Yeah. So,
the article about that racetrack, Indiana State Fairgrounds, it doesn't say why it's closing, but it's been around since 1903.
That's over 100 years. Yeah. So currently the Indy. Go ahead.
Just real quick about Niki Lauda. I was always a fan of him. I always, I watched his movie. Did they have
Rush,
movies
right?
about him and everything like that? Rush. That was a real good movie. So today when I was driving around, and I know how you love me talking about other podcasts. There's one called In Depth with I forget the guy's name, but it's called In Depth. He does a lot of good ones. He did a Dale Jr. one. Well, he did a Niki Lauda one. It's kind of weird listening to it now because he passed away, because he did have like a liver transplant, like a kidney transplant or something like that. And he was bragging how good he was doing with his new organs and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then he ended up dying anyway because of organ failure, So it was kind of weird listening to it. But man, what a story he has, man. And he was pretty straightforward guy. Like he told you how he felt and everything. And the guy that was interviewing said, we talked to your ex-wife and she said you were like the biggest asshole in the world. and he agreed. He said she's 100% right, because she was with me when I was racing and all I cared about was racing, because it was life or death out there. It's when a lot of people were getting killed in race cars. And she was with me when I had my bad wreck and I burned and she thought I was going to be done. And then I went back racing and then she finally had nothing left of me, but she was 100% right. I was the biggest asshole in the world while I was racing, because of the pressure I was under, and he, I don't know, it's a great interview. And the guy just says it he doesn't hold anything back. And, he said the first time he drove for Ferrari, he went to a track and he took the car out and the car was slow and the head Ferrari guy. You know, what's his name? The Ferrari guy. Josh, the guy with last name Ferrari. He's got a weird first name. Ferrari himself.
Enzo.
Enzo.
Yeah, he was there, and his son was because he didn't Niki Lauda didn't talk Italian, so the son was translating to the father, and he asked him how the car was and what did he think, and he told the son, he's like, tell your father the car's a piece of shit, and he's like, I can't tell my father. He's like, no, you tell him it is, you know, and he wouldn't tell him that, so Niki told him direct, and he said your front end's no good, you know, the car pushes and this, that, and the other thing, where they call like oversteer or understeer or whatever.
Right.
So Ferrari said, listen, I should fire you right on the spot because we build the best cars in the world. And he's like, but I'm going to listen to you. But I tell you what, you do whatever you want to the front end and you use my engineers to redesign the front end. But if you don't go out there and go 5/10 faster, you're fired. So they gave him like a week to work on the car and get it better. And he came back out when they went back, he was 0.8 faster. And they got along ever since, you know. So it's a real good story. You really got to listen to it, you know. And they said even after his race, I guess he came from money. He didn't shy away from that. He said his family was very, very, very rich in like Australia or Austria or something like that.
Austria, I believe.
And Austria, yeah, he came from a ton of money, a very wealthy family. Grandfather, father were very, very wealthy. So he never strayed away from the fact that he didn't grow. He didn't like act like he grew up with nothing. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And he did say that when he got out of racing, the only thing he did more aggressive than race was invest money. Like everything he went was like high risk, but big returns in his investments. And he's done very, very well. And I didn't know it either. Josh, did you know he owned an airline?
No. What?
It was called it was called Lauda Air. You know his last name. And back in the day, like in the 80s, one of his planes crashed and 236 people got killed. And he actually was so devastated that he went to the crash site with it was a Boeing 467, they call it. I never heard of a 467.
Okay.
Or no, 767. I always heard of 747s, but it was a 767 that wrecked. Mm-hmm. And he actually went to the crash scene with one of the heads of Boeing, and they noticed some of the parts that were wrecked, you know, and they noticed something was stuck up when it should have been down, but it was already wrecked in the mountains. And then they figured out that like some type of valve broken and made the wing flap stick up, and that's what crashed him playing into the mountains. And he said that one thing that devastated him when he went to the crash scene, that because it crashed in like some foreign country, he said all the village people were over there like literally stealing stuff, you know what I'm saying? Wow. Like jewelry right off dead bodies and like the luggage, stealing all the luggage and the clothes and everything that were scattered all over this mountain, you know. And he said that was pretty devastating to him, and it kind of changed his life, you know.
I could believe it. Wow. I had no idea. Where'd you hear this? What podcast?
I was in depth with like, I forget the guy's last name. He's got a real weird name, like Graham something.
Graham? That's a weird one.
No, Graham's his first name, but his last name's crazy. I can look it up real quick. I'm sure if, you know, God forbid if Eric Brennan showed up today. But I mean, all this guy's podcasts or interviews are really good. It gets really big name people. Yeah, it's just a good one. If you guys want to move on to the next topic, I'll go look it up.
Well, speaking of big name people, we were supposed to have a car owner, Danny Watts, on the show. He was gracious enough to come on, but we ended up being 3 days late, so I didn't even bother to call him tonight. So thank you for, thanks to him for willing to do the show.
We'll try to get Eric Brennan to actually show up, and we'll see what happens. Ooh, that is not a.
Was I looking for that? What's
I got it. It's in depth with Graham Bensinger.
Okay.
He does a whole bunch. He's got some really good shows. I mean, it's not just racing people; it's everybody. I mean, like, who cares? But Joe Gibbs, he's got Joe Gibbs, Lewis Hamilton, John Daly, golfer John Daly.
I've been listening to the Bigfoot podcast with Bobo and Cliff from Finding Bigfoot. That's my podcast.
I'm not sure what to say to that.
Yeah, me neither.
I want to give a quick shout out to Anthony Bozzella. He's been on the show before. He actually was up at the track, and we talked for a little bit. I was going to have him call in originally on Monday just to sit in and join us. But obviously our schedule went a little wacky, so maybe next time. But yeah, he's a good kid. He was spotting for Jimmy Blewett Saturday night. Kept him out of a fair amount of the trouble, but I mean, the race was kind of all over the place. I just wanted to mention, so for the Indy 500, the front row is Simon Pagenaud, Ed Carpenter, and Spencer Pigot. Second row, Ed Jones, Colton Herta, Will Power. Third row is Sebastian Bourdais, Joseph Newgarden, and Alexander Rossi. And you can look the rest up as you go if you're into that. It's going to be a good race, hopefully. Personally, I'm not a big Indy 500 fan. I like IndyCar. I don't think the Indy 500 is that good of a race, personally. I think it's a one-line car track.
I love it. I don't care. I don't care. It's single file. I just love watching those cars go around that racetrack.
I'm the kind of guy who watch the first 10 laps and the last 10 laps. I'm good with that.
I watch from the balloons go up to the balloons go down.
All right, to make Lee Allen happy, the Bridgeport raced yesterday.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah, they did. They had the World Outlaws there. Place was packed, too. I was watching some live video. The place
I
was
heard
packed.
it was a really good show. A lot of people were pretty happy with it.
Yeah, the only complaint I heard is some people were complaining that there was only 27 sprint cars there, but that's plenty. 27's perfect, and it's on a Tuesday night. You know what I'm saying? So I heard it was a great race.
Yeah, and when those guys wreck, it's like when you ever watch a bicycle race and one guy goes down, 300 go down. I think it's the same with the sprint cars, honestly. So I think 27 is a perfect number to let them get a little bit of room. I saw a couple of clips here and there.
Who won?
What's that?
Do you know who won?
No, I have no idea.
Yes,
I didn't even look it up.
The guy that crossed the line first, he won.
Oh.
No, but I heard they were battling side by side to the line, so that was pretty good.
Yeah,
I would have loved to go on, but I had to work on the race cars.
Well, you had to race. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah.
That was on Tuesday night. I was working on the race cars.
I'm sorry. Scott, how did your Enduro go?
Oh yeah, the dirt course.
The Enduro went well, except for I got a flat tire. I didn't hit anybody, but the track was rutting up so bad that when I went into the corner and got sideways, it was like hitting a curb, and the tire just came off the bead. So I got a flat. I ended up 12th out of 26th. And talking about Lee Allen, he finished second. So great run by Lee Allen.
And your wife was there? How'd she do?
Yeah, she ran great, man. She ran great, but unfortunately the transmission went, and that's what I've been working on. So.
And then Jason Duvall was there from New Jersey too.
Yeah, Jason was there. Jason ran good first time out, but I think he ended his fuel pump started leaking oil, so he pulled off.
Okay.
But we're racing again. The reason why I'm thrashing, try to get the cars fixed up, is because we're racing again this Sunday at Bridgeport with the Enduro cars on the 3/8 mile track.
3/8, okay. Instead of
the 3/8, the new track in the middle now. Yeah, instead of the quarter mile, they moved this to the 3/8.
Why did they move it? I'm just curious. Did they give a reason?
Yeah, they don't want us running up the quarter mile track because that's where they run the micro sprints, like the 270s. The smaller sprint cars. They want to put us on the big track with the big cars.
Okay, I guess.
Should be fun. Should be good deal.
Yeah.
Have you run that track before? Or that
no, I never have.
Okay.
Nope, never have. Lee Allen does have the advantage there because he does run the outlaw stock on that track occasionally. He's has some lap on it. But what's good about it is, we race Grandview, which is a third mile, and then we race Big Diamond, which is a 3/8, and now we're on the 3/8 also at Bridgeport. So our gears are all good. It's basically the same setup on all three tracks we go to with the Enduro car.
All right, I like that.
Yeah, me too.
I'm having trouble finding results on this, so I'm just gonna have to pass on it because I'm
okay. So what's big weekend racing? This big race weekend. What's on the agenda for this weekend?
Well, the factory stocks are off Saturday, so
yeah. So I was under the impression that Wall Stadium was doing their rain shortened race from last week. They're going to continue that.
I
At Wall
saw
Stadium?
Nancy
The
had.
modified race, yes, the
Yeah, okay.
modified race.
Yeah.
Oh, Scott.
They're-
The factory stocks. They're going to have a double feature one night, I believe, as part of the
Yeah.
rain makeup. What was that?
Yeah, July 6th. We already qualified for the race, and that's our qualifying order. That field is frozen. We're going to make that race up July 6th.
Okay. All right. Cool. What else are we?
But yeah,
missing?
if anybody's interested, I am racing at Bridgeport Sunday, May 26th at 7 p.m. They don't have a list of what's racing that night, but it is the All-American 40 second hand of the poker series. And Tim was talking about bringing his kids, and they got a lot going on in the grandstands. It's live music from the Chaplain the Kid, moon bounces, bandit bus rides, ice cream, and water ice, barbecue, and much more.
Ooh, barbecue.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure my brother. I'm pretty sure my brother will be down there with my nieces watching this race. It is pretty cool though. You ever notice that Bridgeport has like that? I call it a pole barn, but it's like a picnic grove behind the grandstands, and they always have bands there. It's kind of cool that they have bands there. So when you get there, you
know
can listen
what?
to the music.
Bridgeport Speedway doesn't get enough credit for. That's a pretty nice facility as far
Real
as
nice.
yeah. They got the food there's real good. There's always something for the kids to do. They got a little playground. There's always a bounce house there. Plenty of room there to move around. Nice picnic area. It's a nice place. It's just a little far away.
And the Bandit bus ride is their mascot's called the Bandit, and the bus lets the kids get on the bus and they take them through the pits. They drive them through the pits. So that's
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah. It was. It does sound like a good thing. I've gone down to Bridgeport a handful of times. I got to race, my car, some of Lee Allen's cars down there. It's fun. It's a good place. I like the setup. You're right. I think all the New Jersey tracks do a pretty good job of putting stuff together. And Bridgeport definitely has been pretty clean, and I've been pretty happy to be down there. Although, it's a dirt track, so I can't complain too much. But some of the mud puddles getting out to where we were parked in the pits.
Is there a theme for Wall Stadium this weekend?
Yeah, I drove by the racetrack today on the marquee sign out front. It was a country theme night.
Okay, so bring your boots and your cowboy hat. Yeah. Again,
Josh, what are you doing this weekend? You going camping? Memorial Day is also a big camping weekend.
we were supposed to go camping. My wife did not reserve the site in time, so I'm going to be running some new wire because I was having an electrical issue, and I think it's because the electrician that we had when they moved our electrical panel out into the porch from the kitchen ran a 14-gauge wire instead of a 12-gauge wire, and our microwave is overloading the circuit.
Sounds right.
Yeah, so fun stuff. I get to go around in my crawl space. But that's about it. Maybe I'll go fishing. If
Well, if you get the urge to go to Bridgeport to film our race, I'll pay your way in.
All right.
Oh boy, it'll be Christmas before we see that.
Never say never. Never say never.
I have Stafford on Friday night. Probably go to Wall on Saturday night, and then go watch Uncle Scott race on Sunday night, and then the parade in Farmingdale on Monday.
Tim, just clear that up. You're going to Stafford on Friday night. It's not for a modified tour race, right? It's an open comp race.
It's an MRS Open 80 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So we won. I think there was two of them last year, and we won one of them. I don't know if it was the first one or the second one, but I'm looking forward to going back. Hopefully, we'll have success again. There'll be a handful of modified tour guys there, and then the rest are the MRS guys. I guess they are. I honestly don't know that much about it. Who's going to be there? But Stafford always puts on a good show, so it'll be interesting.
All right, guys. Well, it's midnight.
I got 11:59. Hold up.
Are we skipping? What have we learned?
Oh, hell no. We're not skipping that. I'm ready to do it. What have we learned today? Tim.
I'll go first. I'll go
Scott.
first. I've learned that Josh only talks when it's midnight on a Wednesday night and we're 3 days late. We were supposed to do a quick 45-minute show, but that's when Josh comes rolling in with his talking and this and made the show even run longer. But That's great.
Sorry for liking a modified race. It'll never happen again. Tim, how about you? What'd you learn?
I learned that you're a big fan of the modified. You didn't even know it. I learned before the show that Sam's staying at somebody else's house this weekend. You see, he's staying on somebody's couch.
It's a guy's house.
Yeah, and I guess Eric's dog's having potty training problems.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, so today I learned that Tim Magic was happy to lose a position, or Majek. I learned that you don't get shot at Brothers Pizza. I learned that Scott likes to lick his pickle.
Long as it's his own, not somebody else's.
And I learned that Graham Crazy has a podcast. Sorry, Scott's got a mouthful right now. that's my next soundbite.
Yeah, I learned Scott had a mouthful tonight. On the
well, this was actually a pretty fun show. So thank you guys. Scott, I know you were busy and having a lot going on with the cars, but thank you for coming out to join us. Hopefully we'll be back on schedule next week.
Yeah, I want to apologize to the listeners that we're doing the show late. It's amazing how many people called me on Tuesday morning and said, "Where's the podcast? When's the podcast coming up?" I said, "We didn't do it. We're all so busy right now." No, you better get it up. We better get up. I'm like, we're going to try to do something on Wednesday.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because Josh was actually sitting with me for a while. We were sitting on the platform of the spotter stand, which you weren't supposed to do, but we were sitting there and. No, I know you didn't get caught. Some people did. It was me, Ronnie Silk, spotter Sean were sitting there, and all these people kept coming over to me and saying how great the podcast is and this and that. And he turns to me, he goes, that podcast is doing pretty good, bigger than I thought it was. So thank you for everybody that took the time to stop and to say how the podcast is good and everything, and feedback and all that was wonderful. So good.
Now share it.
Tim, something I wanted to ask you real quick too is there was before the modified tour race, there was talk going on that there was going to be like some type of temporary grandstands in the grandstands as well. Was there anything like that, or is this spotter stand stuff?
It was almost like scaffolding. I don't even know Josh, what would you call those platforms?
I would call it more like a portable stage that you might have, where you can tie them all together and make like a small stage for a band or something to play on, like maybe an outdoor venue. Yeah, but it was closer to scaffolding than grandstands.
But it wasn't for spotters, right? It wasn't like for people to sit in, right?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Diane made it quite clear that you were only supposed to be there if you were a spotter.
Well, was there anybody sitting down all the way down in that picnic grove that they never really finished down there?
I saw a bunch of people post pictures of their kids playing in there.
Uh-huh.
So it was open.
Yeah, it's really not a bad seat sitting down there.
No, we spotted that. The one turkey derby, we all spotted from in there. Believe it or not, you can spot pretty good from in there.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good sight view over there.
There's a little bit of overgrowth, so you lose a little bit into turn 1 and 2 there. But otherwise, it's not a bad vantage point. So we got a pretty good view of the race from there. It worked out. I was happy.
I meant to ask you, do you think it was a turkey derby crowd? Less? Same? More?
I think it's pretty much a turkey derby crowd. I mean, maybe.
I thought it was.
Everything, the whole regular blue grandstand was full, except for maybe the bottom 2 rows.
Yeah,
at the very bottom.
Yeah.
The corners were full, and then where I was at, which has been crowded in the past, that little thing you're talking about in the picnic grove, that was.
You know how I usually judge the crowd there too, if they're standing like 3 or 4 deep in the top, and when I did walk over in the grandstands, there was a lot of people standing up top 3 or 4 deep at the back of the grandstands too.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. So it was right on par with a Turkey Derby crowd, a Turkey Derby Saturday crowd to be specific. So I hope it went well. I hope the people were happy. I know some people were complaining and bashing. You can never please everybody, but
it's the end of the show. But I saw a lot of stuff on social media about how the tickets were. Some people, you can go to a modified tour race for $18, $20. That's crap. That's crap. It's $35, $40, $45, $50. So that's whoever was saying that.
I think they're misled because wasn't that one race down south like $15 or something like that?
Yeah, that was a special deal.
Yeah, it was a fluke. Yeah.
Yeah, anybody know? And it must have been Trenton when they went to the last tour race. It was $25.
I think the pricing was fair.
I do too.
Even for the pit
I got
passes.
my money's worth.
Yeah. I thought the show was pretty darn good, and it ran on a pretty good time schedule until at least the last 20 laps of the tour race. then the time went a bit long, but
if it didn't have those couple oil downs, it would have been fine. You know,
yeah,
what are you gonna do?
that speedy dry issue was a pain in the butt.
You know, they're running all this new stuff's all synthetic oil, and from what I understand, that's a pain in the ass to get up off the racetrack.
I have no experience in that. I'll be honest. So, I don't know. If you didn't get your money's worth, there's something wrong with you. And if you're going to blame the track for any of it, you better be blaming the physical asphalt of the track and not the promoter, not the crew, or whatever. Because the tour race, that was NASCAR's show. NASCAR was running everything and telling everybody where to go at that point. Had nothing to do with Diane or the Kraus family or anything. They did a lot to get that tour there, to get that show going.
And she did put a positive via Jeff Gravett. She put a very positive
She thanked
article
all the fans. and
Yeah,
racers.
that was cool.
I didn't get to read that yet, but honestly, you can't blame the track. It is a difficult track for a lot of people. I am honored to have raced at that track for a few years, and I really hope that it comes back. I hope that they can make that event happen again. I hope.
Oh, let's hope that the track opens again next year and everything stays the same. You know, I believe if Diane does open the track next year, if that's her decision and her family's decision, I think the modified tour will be back.
And not only that, I think if anybody opens the track next year, if Diane decides not to do it again, I think they saw the success of the modified tour being there, and I think they would definitely look into bringing them back as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some tweaking and some changes, but I think it was a success overall. So we'll see. These guys need some more practice there, and it's a difficult track. So yeah, congrats to Woody Pitcat, and congrats to Blake Barney for a great run, and thanks everyone for a great show.
All right, and that wraps up the RPM podcast, and we'll see you guys next Monday.
Go to Wall.
Go to Wall.